Hello, dear colleagues. Nice to greet you and thanks for clicking. And today we are going to discuss one thing that's really crucial in our teaching practice, and that's of paramount importance for successful learning. So to begin with, I'd like you to read through a few statements and fill in one word which would be suitable for all the three statements. So something is the ultimate tool for producing results with other people. No matter what you want in your life, if you can develop it with the right people, you'll be able to fill their needs and they will be able to fill yours. Something is the ability to enter someone else's world, to make him feel that you understand him, that you have a strong common bond. A teacher who establishes something with a taught becomes one with them, learns more from them than he teaches them. He who learns nothing from his disciples is, in my opinion, worthless. Whenever I talk with someone I learned from him, I take from him more than I give him. So, what's this thing Tony Robbins and Mahatma Gandhi are talking about? Think for a minute. Yes, you're absolutely right if you said this was rapport. In my opinion, it's absolutely crucial to build rapport with your students. But the question is, why? So again, take your time to think of your own ideas, your own answers to this question. But in my opinion, the key thing is that rapport helps us develop the feeling of safety, and it makes the student want to communicate with the teacher, which is absolutely vital for learning. So, since we've agreed that rapport is so important, let's think of what we can do to develop it. And the first thing is, of course, getting to know your students. So what can you do to get to know your students better? Firstly, and in the most shallow level, this is, of course, making sure that you know their names. Yeah? To do so, you can just use cards you ask the students to put on the desks for a few first lessons. Yeah? You can use snowball-like games when the students repeat the names of all the previous classmates. Yeah? But not only should you know their names for sure, you should gather some personal information by asking questions, and then use this information for personalization. Yeah? For example, when I'm present past continuous, the function of two simultaneous long action, and if I know the name of my student's brother or sister, I usually provide the example such as, you might tell to your parents, while I was sweeping the floor, Vaisa was playing computer games, where Vaisa would be the name of my student's brother. Yeah. And all things like that. So use the information about your student for personalization, for providing context. Yeah. Then content feedback is one of the important ways to gather information. Yeah? For instance, no matter what kind of discussion your students had in pairs, be sure you ask peers to report back what they've come to, or to ask the students what they have learned about their partners. Yeah. It's also a good idea to use warmer questions for this, but again, make sure you encourage learners to stay positive. What I mean by this is that your warmer questions should be like, what is the most interesting thing that happened to you yesterday? Yeah? Or what's the most beautiful thing you saw this morning? Or what's the greatest thing that happened to you over the last weekend? So don't allow them complain. Yeah? The second thing is, of course, sharing information about yourself. I'm not really into giving long talks about yourself unless it serves as an example when I want my students to give similar talks about themselves afterwards. But the situations when I do share the information about myself is, of course, firstly, personalization and building context. Yeah? For instance, while presenting use to, I like to start with bringing an old photo of myself in the class and ask the students to compare with me on the photo and me nowadays as they see me in reality. And we make up sentences like, you didn't used to wear a ponytail, or you used to be slimmer, and all that stuff. Yeah. Or again, when you build up context for presenting grammar, you might give different details about yourself. It's also a nice idea to organize question and answer sessions every now and then. It also serves a grammatical purpose because questions are quite a tough grammatical area for most students. And if you want to concentrate on accuracy, you might state that you only answer the correct questions. Yeah? Or you might ask the class to correct each other's questions and only answer afterwards. Yeah? Another key feature, key concept for building rapport is sincerity. Yeah? And what I mean by this, first of all, is like allow yourself, live through the emotions you're feeling during the lesson. Of course, it doesn't mean you'll throw tantrums at your students, yeah? But if you really feel angry about their misbehavior or sad about the homework they haven't done, let them feel that. But the more important, even more important, if you are happy about their great answer or their test results have made your day, also make them know about that. Another thing here is the concept of laughter. One of the methodologies I really appreciate once said that the first and only sign of good rapport is how much good laughter is there at your lesson. Not like mocking, yeah, but good, kind laughter which brings you together. This is why don't be too stern-faced. Don't hesitate to bring a good joke to your lesson. To cut the long story short, make sure your students feel that you're a human being, not a teaching machine. And another thing, a lot of young students also, a lot of young teachers and novice teachers often make mistake with is that they pretend to be Mr. Know-Alls. And when they don't know the answer, they either try to make it the student's homework, a very widespread and very well-known strategy, yeah? Or just give the first answer that comes to their mind, hoping the students will never remember their question and the teacher's answer. Of course, that's not the best thing to do. Please remember, we are teachers, not walking dictionaries, not Mr. Know-Alls. It's okay to not know something. We don't know anything, even in our native languages. This is why when a student asks you the meaning of the word, or if a certain phrase is okay, it's okay to look that up in a dictionary, in a grammar reference book, or wherever. Moreover, it's okay to say that you can't give the answer right now if you don't have the necessary reference material available right this moment. But be sure to remember the question and bring the answer next lesson. Otherwise, you'll lose your student. Yeah? So bring real emotions. Let yourself live through real emotions. Give enough space for a good, kind laughter. And don't pretend to know everything. This is what I mean by sincerity at the lesson. Another thing which is also quite important in building rapport, especially in preschoolers and primary school students, is rules and routines. For preteens, teens, and adults, they might cause boredom. But for preschoolers and primary students, they create a feeling of order and safety and make the students feel more comfortable. And the more comfortable they feel, the more they want to communicate. One more thing, just as the teacher has a right to not know something or to make a mistake, in absolutely the same way, and of course even more, the student has a right to mistake. So what can you do to protect this student's right to make a mistake? Number one, of course, avoid overcorrection. This means that sometimes you'll just ignore errors unless they refer to the target grammar and vocabulary you're studying right now, and unless they really impede communication. Another thing is that you will primarily react to the content of what your student says. Yeah? A widespread example of a bad teacher's mistake is that when the student says, my dog died yesterday, and the teacher says, no, your dog died. Yeah. So this is a clear example of ignoring the content of the student's message and definitely ruining rapport. Yeah. When you really do need to correct, I would opt for delayed error correction, which means I hardly ever interrupt the students while they are speaking, unless we are doing the practice activity, yeah. But when we are having freer activities, I never ever interrupt students while they are speaking. I note all their mistakes, and after they have finished, usually I give them the phrases they said wrongly in Russian and ask to express the same idea in English, of course. Believe it or not, 95% of cases, when they concentrate on the form, they say their sentences correctly. And then I have the right to repeat what they first said and ask why they did that. Yeah? Another thing is so-called a rule of hamburger, yeah? Which means when you're giving feedback, start with something positive, then you may pay attention to some mistakes, and then finish with something positive again. Yeah? So it would sound like something, I really loved the way you used mere words in your essay. You did make some mistakes in grammar. I really think you should revise the use of past perfect simple and past perfect continuous, but the content of your story was so exciting, I couldn't put it down unless I finished it. Yeah, so like this. First, you say something good. Yeah, you did very well in vocabulary. Then you point out the mistakes in grammar. And then again, you say something positive about the content. Yeah. And another thing, which is especially important for teenagers, is that we as teachers are responsible, at least to a certain extent, to the classmates' reaction. Never ever allow mocking, let alone bullying, in your class. Yeah. Try to teach your students to perceive correction not as just like, I know more than you, you did wrong here, yeah, but as just the wish to help, yeah, to help to improve. Or probably I had to do this in some classes myself. forbid correcting each other completely unless they are able to do it in a positive manner. Well, that's about all I wanted to draw your attention to today. Thanks for watching, and you're more than welcome to share your impressions and ideas in the comment section below, as well as ask questions. Until next time, take care.